computer. All right, cool. So we're talking about the necessity. So we've previously discussed creating syllogisms to make a case. So you've got a contention and really to come up with reasons that support your contention. And ideally for those reasons to deductively work together to make the contention necessarily true, given the truthfulness of the two topic sentences. The reason why you should do that isn't just because Michael says so. Michael says so because it's said in the Acer information book. This is the GAMSAT guide. So here is two broad criteria. One, the quality of thinking about a topic, which is further expanded on here. So assessment focuses on the way in which ideas are integrated into a thoughtful response to the task. This says a lot. First, response to the task. In other words, it needs to be directly relevant, right, to the task. See, they say here, pre-prepared responses and responses that don't relate to the topic will receive a low score. Okay. But also integrated. What is it to integrate ideas? So it's not just enough to have quality ideas. It's the way that you integrate it. In other words, not just here's my idea, here's one part of it, and here's another part of it. How do these work together to make a case for the contention in question? And then secondly, the control and use of language demonstrated in the articulation of that thinking. Keyword articulation. So what is it to articulate? If something articulates, it works in with or it stands out, right? So it's how the words create the effect of what you're saying being prominent. In other words, clear. They expand on it here. Control of language is integral, but it's not assessed in isolation, only insofar as it contributes to the effectiveness of the response. In other words, you don't get marked for using fancy words. Most people are trying to say simple things in complex terms. You want to say complex things in simple terms. You want to articulate and be effective in your articulating. Yeah. In other words, to what extent does your language allow you to be understood? All right. Now, ASA don't just administrate the GAMSAT. They administrate another exam called the ACT scaling test. Did you see this posted in the Section 2 sorted group recently?
Yeah, I saw it.
Great. Did you read it?
Yeah.
Cool. So at the bottom, you'll see Mr. Doug McCurry from ASA with a table full of the weakest answers, below average, average, above average, and strongest in terms of written tests, right? So they expound here the strongest answers, ability to organize a view into a cogent argument. What else is a syllogism but a cogent argument with an organized view? Yeah?
Yeah.
And also the ability to develop a view and organize an argument. So, for example, when I say to you, why'd you go to Macca's? Well, because I was hungry and it was cheap. They are two entirely organized and cogent thoughts. They correspond directly to the conclusion. But if I said to you, why'd you go to Macca's? And you said, well, in the history of neoliberal capitalism, McDonald's has become an institution of enormous rapport. You know, and you said, blah, 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 and that was your point one. And then point two is McDonald's is, overstepping the mark of traditional morality by endangering citizens. You might think you're sounding smart, but this and this have nothing to do with why you went to Macca's. Right? So you want to organize your view into a cogent argument, and you want to integrate your thoughts. Not just have good thoughts, but how are you integrating them cogently? And that's why, or that's the basis of the importance of the creation of a syllogism, or if you don't want to make a sound argument, at least have a coherent argument, which is to say, have your points correspond to the conclusion in question, or the contention in question. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.